Why is so much writing so bad? And how can we make it better? Why is it so hard for writers to use language to convey ideas effectively? My favorite explanation of this general infirmity of writers is a psychological phenomenon called the curse of knowledge. The fact that when you know something, it's hard to imagine what it is like for someone else not to know it. Psychologists also call it mind blindness, egocentrism, and hindsight bias. And a lovely explanation comes from a standard experiment in the child psychology curriculum, familiar to any student who's taken an introductory course, where a 3-year-old comes into the room. You hand the boy a box of candy, say an M&M's box. And the child opens it expecting to find M&Ms, and he's surprised that it's been tampered with and there are ribbons in it instead. So the child is surprised, and you stuff the ribbons back in the box, seal it up again, put it on the table. You say, well, now another boy's going to come into the lab. What does he think is in the box? And the boy will say, ribbons. That is, even though, of course, the new child, like the child himself, has no way of knowing that the box contains ribbons, but now that the child knows it, he assumed that everyone does. In fact, if you ask the boy, what did you think was in the box before you came into the room? And he'll say, ribbons. He can no longer recover the state at which he did not know something that he now knows. Now, adults, of course, outgrow this impairment, kinda, a little, because many studies have shown that adults, too, will attribute their own vocabulary to other people. If they know a fact, even if it's an obscure fact, they assume that everyone else knows it. They project their technical skill onto others. One study showed that the more adept someone was at using a gadget like a smartphone, the more practice they had, the less time they estimated it would take other people to learn it. Now that it was second nature to them, they figured it's inherently easy to use. I think the curse of knowledge is the chief contributor to opaque writing. It simply doesn't occur to the writer that readers haven't learned their jargon, don't know the intermediate steps that seem too obvious to mention, can't visualize a scene that's currently in the writer's mind's eye, and so the writer doesn't bother to explain the jargon or spell out the logic or supply the concrete details.